The early 1900s saw some of Britain's most ruthless criminals, but few had a fate as terrifying as John Blackjack Ketchum. Known for his cold-blooded crimes and violent nature, Ketchum's life was filled with murder, robbery, and deception. However, his gruesome and botched execution made him infamous beyond his crimes, cementing his name in history as one of the most dangerous men of his time. Ketchum was a notorious outlaw who operated on the edges of society, attacking, looting, and killing without mercy. He primarily targeted travelers, merchants, and wealthy individuals, robbing them before brutally murdering them. Unlike other criminals, he showed no hesitation in taking lives, and his methods were often sadistic. He was feared even among fellow criminals, who avoided crossing him due to his unpredictable and violent nature. His ruthlessness made him one of the most wanted men in Britain, and law enforcement pursued him for years before finally capturing him. In 1901, Ketchum was caught and swiftly sentenced to death by hanging for his numerous crimes. His trial was quick, as the evidence against him was overwhelming, and the public demanded justice. However, no one could have predicted the horror that would unfold on the day of his execution. On the day of the hanging, a massive crowd gathered to witness the event. Public executions were rare by this time, but Ketchum's crimes were so shocking that people were eager to see his fate. The executioner prepared him for the drop, placing the noose around his neck and ensuring everything was in place. But a fatal miscalculation occurred. The rope was too long. When the trapdoor beneath Ketchum opened, his body fell too far, and instead of being strangled to death, the force of the drop completely tore his head off. In a split second, his severed head rolled onto the ground, leaving the crowd in utter shock. People screamed, some fainted, and even the executioner himself was visibly horrified. It was one of the most gruesome and botched executions in British history. Ketchum's headless body twitched for several moments before it finally stopped moving. Authorities quickly removed his remains, trying to control the panic that had spread through the audience. His body was buried immediately in an unmarked grave, but the horror of his execution did not end with his burial. Soon after his death, strange and unsettling reports began to surface. Prison guards and visitors claimed to see a headless figure wandering the site of his execution, particularly at night. Some even said they heard whispers and ghostly laughter, as if Ketchum was still mocking those who had tried to bring him to justice. The location where he was buried became infamous for unexplained shadows, eerie noises, and an overwhelming sense of dread. Over the years, Ketchum's story turned into a chilling legend. Many believe that his spirit never found peace, and his violent nature keeps him bound to the world of the living. Paranormal investigators and ghost hunters who have visited the site claim to have experienced cold chills, sudden nausea, and even disembodied voices calling out from the darkness. John Blackjack Ketchum's life was defined by violence, and so was his death. Even in execution, he met a fate as horrifying as the crimes he committed, and his ghostly presence continues to terrify those who dare to visit the place where he died. His brutal, bloody execution remains one of the most terrifying moments in history, a grim reminder of how justice, when poorly executed, can turn into a nightmare of its own.